Welcome back to the Wiccan Forum. Tonight we're with Manny to discuss his seed moon ritual for the full moon of April.
Yes.
Welcome back.
Thank you. Lovely to be here again. So,
Would you like to discuss your altar?
sure. Well, I started with the green altar cloth, which is right here, obviously. I wanted to go with the more earthy motif this time, so that's why I picked the green for the earth. And then I also have the green candle in the middle that was to represent the earth as well. And
Was the sun with the green candle to represent the sun warming the earth so the seeds that we plant at this time would grow?
the sun candle holder actually had a double meaning this time, as it actually kind of did the last time I had my invoke ritual. It was for that, but it's also to the fact that the god I identify the most with is Apollo, and I like to have that to represent him in my rituals. So,
What kind of flowers are all draped along your altar?
well, they're actually, I have these that grow in my yard, and I actually don't know what kind of flowers they are, but I like them. I thought they looked really nice, so I wanted some of these. And these are lilacs, and these are petals from, I believe they're apple blossoms. We actually have a tree across the street, and we just pick some up and scatter them.
And don't forget we asked permission first from the goddess.
Always ask permission. Everything was asked for permission before we took.
Now, what do we have in the cauldron?
In
What
the
was
cauldron, we actually have ashes. What I decided to do for this ritual is, because it was the seed moon, typically in the past, for rituals of this, I guess, full moon type nature, people would always have the common thing to do would be to take a seed and plant it in a little pot of dirt and then watch the seeds grow. And I didn't want to do that since it's been done before. So since this full moon is also about new beginnings, what I decided was to have everybody take a piece of paper and write down a new beginning that they were looking to work on, something that they were putting off, maybe for money reasons or time constraints, and just have them write it down. And what we did is we put it in the cauldron, and after the ritual, we went outside and burnt them to release the wishes into the ether.
And what I liked about your ritual, compared to other rituals, this is not an elaborately done altar. It is simple, elegant, and it works.
Thank you.
It's practical,
Thank you.
and it's not overblown.
Thank you.
It's not ostentatious.
If there's one thing I try to strive for within my altars, it's the simplicity. I don't like to have it cluttered because I like to have the space, I like to have room to work with. And again, just the simplicity. You don't need giant fancy things to prove anything. It doesn't make me a better Wiccan than anybody else. We're all here for the same purpose, which is to
honor the gods.
honor the gods and goddesses and take care of the earth. And it doesn't matter how big the tools are or how fancy they are.
I like to set an elaborate altar, but like you said, you need the room to do the work.
Exactly.
And I find if I get too elaborate, I don't have room to move the asahame or move the pentacle or anything.
Exactly.
And that's why you should go simple.
Exactly. I mean, typically when in an altar, this, as the priest or priestess, this is where you're going to be standing. And I like to have room where I can take my bowl of salt and my pentacle and have it here, and when I'm done with it, I can put it to the side and bring whatever else I need into the forefront. I don't want to have to, okay, well, where am I going to put this? Because I don't have room for it. So that's why I try to not make it too...
I like it to look really nice, and I have to learn how to simplify, because like you said, you need the room to work.
Exactly. I mean, I'm not taking a shot at anybody. To each his own.
Oh, stop it. Yes, you are.
Well, yes and no.
And by the way, those people that you're taking a shot at will never watch this.
That's okay. I'm not really worried about them watching it anyway. But like I said, to each his own. But like I said, for me, myself, I like to have the extra room to work with.
Could you show us your besom and tell us what the colors represent?
Sure. Well, I actually had this made at Practical Magic. It was made for me. And since red and black are my two favorite colors, that is the colors that are on here, basically. I mean, so. And then we also have the flowers in the middle. I like to have flowers just to bring that little bit of freshness. It's always nice to have flowers on your altar. Typically, after the research that I did, I found that the commonly used colors for this full moon were crimson, red, and gold. But I also did use those colors for my in-bulk ritual, and I didn't want to make it look like I was just doing the same thing over and over. So I chose to go with this array of flowers, which it actually has the yellow, and it's got the orangey red. I just like the mix of colors, so I chose these flowers to put on the ritual.
I like the little white baby
altar,
crest or whatever that is in there.
Yeah, it
also
brings the nice subtle touch to the flowers.
No, you said you didn't want to do things. You were afraid to do things over and over again. Were you afraid that people were going to chastise you that you're not an original?
Not really. I myself, I don't like to do the same thing over and over. It was a brand new ritual for me, being the second ritual that I've done, and being that the first one that I've done, which was in bulk, was really only 2.5 months ago. Even though we've had rituals in between, I did not want to repeat.
I find when I'm writing a ritual, I like to try to switch it up a little bit. And I like to honor different goddesses and different gods, because otherwise you will have everybody looking like you're doing the same thing over.
Exactly.
And you're doing it for yourself as well as for everybody else.
Exactly.
So it's good to mentally challenge yourself.
I don't know about you, but I know some Wiccans like to talk behind each other's backs and criticize people for doing things one way and not changing things up, so...
You know, if they're going to criticize, let them criticize. No matter what group you're in, there's always going to be somebody to critique you.
And that's the same
right.
people that say, oh, you shouldn't talk behind other people's back, you know, do this
Yeah,
and do
but if
that.
you're doing a ritual, you're doing it for yourself as well as for the group. So do you and be
Talk
yourself.
about copying
Don't
people.
put a giant whatever on the altar just because someone else did. If someone else had giant candles, you don't have to have giant candles. If someone else had a 500-pound statue and you want to have a 2-foot
You mean I can have
statue,
candles on my altar that are like 5 years old and I've used for other things?
you could if you wanted to.
No,
But I think that would
I
defeat
wouldn't
the
do that for
purpose.
energy-wise.
I think that would defeat the purpose energy-wise. You should start fresh and let those candles burn out. And as I've gone on weekend retreats where I've gotten rid of all the candle wax by doing a big barrel fire, and it's all part of a cleansing ritual.
Absolutely.
Cleansing and rebirth.
Absolutely.
Well, I know coming up next, I have our Beltane ritual, and I'm preparing for it now, and this was a nice precursor to it.
Thank
I
you.
could feel a lot of energy. It actually made my stomach not so quite right, you might say. So I'm just kind of a little bit under the weather.
I
Preparing.
want to ask you, what incense did you use for your ritual?
It was actually a forest incense.
The forest incense.
I got it again at Practical Magic.
Because it was quite intoxicating.
Thank you. It had a very, I think, spicy.
He just wanted to
smell
copy
it.
somebody that's never going to watch this. But
I don't really know
But,
about that. I'm not really down for copying. But I wanted it again with the incense. I wanted it to go with the motif of the earthy tones and feels. So that's why I picked the forest
well,
incense.
thank you very much for performing the ritual.
Thank
it was
you.
great.
Thank
And we'll
you.
see you later on. This has been Robert Vecchio.
And Steve Pulaski,
Wiccan Forum. Blessed be.
blessed be.
Blessed be.